America over English. Real Ethiopian, me not British, go tell them. EmpressMenen. Hamarina Kwanka Fidel teach my children. Them teach me English, Amharic is my preference. When my heights and my black my reverence. About touching no, best man, you hear me nor. See me, you can desmond this teeth in talk. Before the best man, you in the onech in the ube me dear. Tihun, you let in Jara, chinin. Satin Zare. Kai, Mook, it's hot, it's hot. Lion voice, one voice, and the lion voice. Time for the lion and the lioness voices to be heard. Log in and don't log off. Lion voice, Quasi, one. Lion voice, I hit.
The fittest of the fittest shall survive. My people, open your eyes. Wake up. Blessed love, this is Queen Omega representing for all lions and lionesses. With the lion's voice, we come to tell our story. Ras Tafari, live it. Hey, the lion's voice, Ras Tafari.
Very important to this reasoning is the understanding that we carry trauma associated with the Bible. Why? This was the book that was used by our enslavers, our colonizers, as a weapon to mentally entangle us in a snare. And we were told that the patriarchs and the matriarchs were European. We were given imagery of Europeans. We were told that we were cursed, that we were the product of a curse. All of these things were used as psychological warfare against I and I. So a lot of times the ones who are born the Bible, when you get deep into it, it's out of this trauma, this how can you embrace this book that was used to bludgeon our ancestors, our forefathers? If we are going to navigate this road of how do we deal with doctrine, because even though it's good to reason about aspects of doctrine, sharpen the sword, like I said in the art group, we're having a reasoning is productive. I'm praying that it inspires some of the artists, some of the different ones, them make music, the crafts people make crafts, farmers, when them a farm have something for educate upon, and so I think it's good that we occupy our irids and sharpen and never get comfortable within our concepts, and always challenge and seek to go deeper. However, the other danger of that is that we get into the doctrine wars and then we don't do no work, which is also happened. We have that precedence as well where we argue about things that at the end of the day are not putting food on the table. They are not moving. They're not building the buildings and the infrastructures and the schools and the hospitals and the health centers and the farmers markets that we need. So we don't want to get into that loop. Now,
well, lion voice, tell them that's the people first choice. Lion voice, make the lioness them feel nice. Lion voice, with the lion cubs we sacrifice. Lion voice, got to show the people them the life. Lion voice. The second beast was given the power to give breath unto the image of the first beast so that the image could speak, and caused all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced the people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hands and in their forehead. Gone down in the new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell that's new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them video game that's new matrix. It's a new world order. Them start bleaching, diverse doctrine. Them start preaching. Angels for the stars they reaching. They're falling, never hear the lion calling. New world order, them fight against the poor. Machine and robot that sweep them floor. Machine and robot that run them stores. So them create disease ones without any fear. The new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell that's
What do you have to tell the people about Ras Tafari?
Light to the world. King of kings and the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah. I like himself. Where's rightful ruler? Hey yo! Yeah, hail them high, hail the black king on the 23rd of July. So tell them guy who praise God up in the sky, it's a lie. The Almighty living on your
I
night.
heard of that.
From ancient time them a try. Them Romans know them just open them suit and ties. Criminals ain't got no alibi, they stole my people. Then them come without them genocide.
Are you talking about slavery?
Them couldn't kill the lion we come conquer Judah tribe.
Who?
Go through tribulation, and I strive, see sufferation, and I still rise. That's why we tell them in America, live Rastafari in every ghetto area. We come to tell them in a Toronto, straight at
Greetings in that divine name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I. Glory and honor in the name of his chosen queen, EmpressMenen. My name is Kwasi Bansu, aka the DEJAZMATCH Kwasi, aka Ras Kwasi, aka the Reading Ras, aka the Pan-African Happy Man, creative industry attorney. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an actionist, and right now I am the host of the Lion's Voice. Welcome to the Lion's Voice, and welcome to the Lion Voice Network, where the lions are telling our own story. Today, we are going to talk about something that is crucial for the unity of Rastafari. We are going to talk about some of the doctrine and the differences, and how do we navigate these differences, and how do we set some rules and structures that will allow us to move forward in oneness, building within a fullness of the strength. And I have some recommendations. Of course, I am one person. The Lion Pride is free to chime in as well. So this episode will be part one. We're going to go deeper into both sides of the extremes, of this Bible debate. And, I think it's something that is useful because, again, not just to talk about it in a vacuum, but so that we can get some parameters as the Rastafari family in terms of how we engage on this very important topic. So this will be part one. We'll do second part where we talk about some of the pitfalls of the Bible and what have been some of the historical grievances by the brethren and sisters who burn out the Bible, why they do it, go deeper into that reasoning, and then we'll go the other side, the ones that who embrace the Bible fully, and sometimes these ones we find, minimize the divinity of His Imperial Majesty. So we'll go and look at all of those reasoning, you know what I mean? Because one extreme, other extreme, they're all under the umbrella of Rastafari currently. So it's something that we have to look at both sides and then again come up with some parameters. But this episode, this is what we're going to talk about. Because one of the things that we are doing with this platform, Rastafari Independent Non-Aligned Media, is that we are forging the path of unity. We are bringing voices from across the spectrum of Rastafari and the Pan-African community. And we are bringing education and information that will allow us to put aside the petty differences and to propel ourselves into a new era of Rastafari development and prosperity. So that is the fullness. So today we are going to talk about Rastafari and Christianity, Rastafari and the Bible. These are topics that keep coming on. We have a lively discussion happening in our association of Rastafari Creatives Group. And before I even go forward, let me just big up the association of Rastafari Creatives Group. Big up my ARC family. You know what I mean? Because we've been having the reasoning about Rastafari, Christianity, the Bible, and it's been so respectful. One sharing their view and no bad word, no cuss, no ad hominem attacks. And for those who don't know, ad hominem mean when you're in a reasoning with a person and a person just start attacking you as a person instead of dealing with the argument. None of that happening. One's just a block them sound. So I just want to big up the entire ARC family. We're really building something special there. If you're a Rastafari creative and you're interested in becoming a part of the association of Rastafari creatives, drop a comment, drop a message, tap into this ecosystem and we'll get you into that collective, you know what I mean? Because we are organizing and centralizing. But this topic continues to come up and we need some structure. You know, I'm an attorney by profession, so I like structure, particularly as they relate to society, because you cannot build without firm foundation. So if everything loosey-goosey, everything does a fly out, so we cannot build a strong entity. So we need some parameters, some ground rules, and that is what I want to focus on with this argument. Now, I am Rastafari. As I tell ones, I don't claim Rasta. I big up every Rasta because Rasta is a powerful piece of the culture. You know, not every Rasta is Rastafari. That is one thing I realize. And you have some Rastafari that are still Rasta. And, you know, because Rasta to I is a Jamaican culture that rise up in Jamaica, all of the, you know, the kind of things around. Rastafari is the living eye. There's one way for Chad Rastafari, you know, and that is patterning the life of LIDJ Tafari McCunnin. That is Rastafari. You know what I mean? You can't come and say you're a Rastafari and then you bring in a whole different doctrine and word sound. That cannot happen. You know what I mean? Why? Because it's true and it's living. These are the two words that we have to remember when it associated with this liberty. It's true, meaning that it's verifiable. Any independent party can verify. And it's living, that means alive. We're looking at a living eye. We're not talking about a, you know, a mystical thing where we can put our, you know, vision around. And I was having this tru-versation with H.I.M data. You know, one of the power that we have as Rastafari people is that we can see, we can, you know, when I visualize the creator, I can put physical characteristics, I can sight up, you know what I mean, a way of life that is consistent with the almighty way of life. So that is why it's so crucial. So anyone who says Rastafari, there is a structure. Another thing I want to introduce, you know, and we've had this conversation in different groups, are the laws, the statutes, the canon, you know, in terms of historical canon. For Rastafari, that has to be the teachings, the example of His Imperial Majesty, meaning that whatever His Majesty say become law, He's the lawgiver. Whatever He block in terms of life, example, these become precedents, you know what I mean, example. So we have to take it that way. I think Haile Selassie is what unifies across all, even the man that were born the Bible will tell you Haile Selassie is the Almighty and these things. So Haile Selassie is that. And there are extremes, because you have some people that go so far within their biblical interpretation, that they even reject Haile Selassie as the Almighty too. So we have both sides of the spectrum. We have the people who completely burn the Bible, and then we have the people who so much into the Bible that essentially they're Christians and they just like His Majesty. So we have both sides of the extreme, but they will all identify under the umbrella of Rastafari. So how do we take these two polarities and create that balance? Very important to this reasoning is the understanding that we carry trauma associated with the Bible. Why? This was the book that was used by our enslavers, our colonizers, as a weapon to mentally entangle us in a snare. And we were told that the patriarchs and the matriarchs were European. We were given imagery of Europeans. We were told that we were cursed, that we were the product of a curse. All of these things were used as psychological warfare against I and I. So a lot of times the ones who are born the Bible, when you get deep into it, it's out of this trauma, this how can you embrace this book that was used to bludgeon our ancestors, our forefathers? Very important to this reasoning is the understanding that we carry trauma associated with the Bible. Why? This was the book that was used by our enslavers, our colonizers, as a weapon to mentally entangle us in a snare. And we were told that the patriarchs and the matriarchs were European. We were given imagery of Europeans. We were told that we were cursed, that we were the product of a curse. All of these things were used as psychological warfare against I and I. So a lot of times the ones who are born the Bible, when you get deep into it, it's out of this trauma, this how can you embrace this book that was used to bludgeon our ancestors, our forefathers? Now, if we drill down into the fullness, you would have realized that even during the period of enslavement, when Africans were being captive, there were African Hebrews that were captured, there were Islam, Muslims that were captured. Africa is a cornucopia of faiths and these things. When you study, and I have had the privilege of studying under some mighty scholars, the foremost biblical scholar being Dr. Kane Hope Felder, Howard University School of Divinity professor, and one of the editors of the African Hebrew Heritage Bible, who did extensive research in what is today Palestine, about the African presence and tracing the lineages and all of these things. I had the privilege of being able to sit at these men's foot. They were doing groundbreaking work. He is now passed from the realm. He is now an ancestor. However, I had the benefit. So I don't have any doubt in terms of who the Hebrews were, that they were African, that they were part and parcel of the Nile Valley civilization, and that this conception of the Almighty within man is as ancient as the river Nile, as ancient as mankind. And these things were preserved, in scripture. When you really peel back, because remember the monasteries in Ethiopia, in Kemet, these were mystery schools that go deeper. The Bible is the entry point, There are deeper mysteries and things that are just touched down in the Bible, but it goes a lot deeper. So I say all of that to say that if we are going to navigate this road of how do we deal with doctrine, because even though it's good to reason about aspects of doctrine, sharpen the sword, like I said in the art group, we're having a reasoning is productive. I'm praying that it inspires some of the artists, some of the different ones, them make music, the crafts people make crafts, farmers, you know what I mean, when them farm have something for meditate upon, and so I think it's good that we occupy our iris and sharpen and never get comfortable within our concepts, you know what I mean, and always challenge and seek to go deeper. However, the other danger of that is that we get into the doctrine wars and then we don't do no work, which is also happened. We have that precedence as well, where we argue about things that at the end of the day are not putting food on the table. They are not moving. They're not building the buildings and the infrastructures and the schools and the hospitals and the health centers and the farmers markets that we need. So we don't want to get into that loop. Now we have Rastafari independent non-aligned media rising, so we can touch on these topics in a constructive way. We can bring on guests to represent the different aspects of these philosophies, and we can go deep, but at the same time, we are advertising Rastafari products. We are building a Rastafari audience, Rastafari media. So it's part of a progress that's happening. So that is a fullness. But we're going to go over some speeches today, so that, again, we can put things into the proper context, because I don't like to just be out on a limb, give you the DEJAZMATCH quasi opinion. My opinion is here or there. You know what I mean? Anybody can talk. The whole of we can talk, if it come down to talk. For the vast majority of I and I as Rastafari, we look to His Majesty as the authority. So if His Majesty give you a concept of history, and that is how we use the framework. We can weave other things, because His Majesty is very general in his concepts and how he outline things. If you had done your research, then you would fill in a lot of the gaps, you know what I mean? But he's giving you the pillars. So that is how we have to look. So I'm going to read His Majesty talking about the founding of Christianity in Ethiopia, and how that, how he looks at it, what Christianity has done for Ethiopia in terms of the unity and helping it to preserve. And these are uncomfortable facts for the ones who are on the Burn the Bible, Judeo-Christian, we burn it side. And there are a lot of my brothers and sisters on the African continent who fall into this. And, you know what I mean, how I look at it still is that Haile Selassie is so powerful that even though these things are so reprehensible to certain ones, they will still have to acknowledge that He's the Almighty. Why? Because of the historical facts where His Majesty do. Now, one uncomfortable historical fact is that the Battle of Adwa is the penultimate or the ultimate defense of African independence and freedom, and that at the helm of that battle was Emperor Menelik, Empress Titu, who were Christian monarchs, meaning members of the Orthodox faith. So this same Christianity that ones would burn as an enslaved or colonized religion was also the banner under which Africa's freedom and independence was preserved. So these are uncomfortable facts that have to be acknowledged when we're talking about Christianity and whether Christianity are European thing and this, which there are no facts to support that Christianity is European. Let's just put it that way. Christianity spread through Europe and vanquished most of the European gods. Zeus fell, Jupiter fell, Thor, Odin. There was a whole heap of gods. Even God itself, the word sound God, come from a German sound, is a German deity. So all of these fell. Some of them were adopted and, rebranded within Catholicism. But most of these things fell. Why? Because of the power of Yeshua. This faith philosophy sweeping out of Northern Africa that is really unprecedented. But again, it's rooted in the Nile Valley civilization, the mystery school, the knowledge that the Almighty lived within man. And big up Sister Ifia, who gave us such a lovely story. If you haven't seen our tribute to our elder Ras Iris, check out our tribute to the elder Ras Iris and my royal sister. You know, I call her my big sister. I just start call her that, but in reality, in Rastafari, I'm a big sister. Mama Ifia, who, well, let me not talk about. Let's listen to what she said.
Because I know that what you call ISIS prayer, it works. I can give a test to that. As I have shared before, that the mole said, I mean, the God said it wanted to hide something from human being, right? What it is that it wants to hide from human being is that I and I have the ability, the innate ability to do whatever. And the eagle said, give it to me and I'll take it up high and I'll hide it there. And the God said, no, human being will find it there. And the buffalo said, give it to me and I'll bury it in the plain. And the God said, no, they'll cut through the plane of the earth and they'll find it there. And the sea creature said, give it to me and I'll take it down into the bottom of the ocean. And the God said, no, they're going to go down there. They're probably going to build a submarine and they're going to go down there. They're going to find it and probably they're going to misunderstand it and they're probably going to destroy it. But it was the mother mole who cannot see externally, but she can see internally. She said to the God, place it inside of them. They'll never find it there. So I know that word sound and power, which is what the ancient matriarch and patriarch taught I and I. One voice, word sound and power, it carries that impact. And so that consolidate the iris of the Nyabingi drums.
Mighty. So the item can see, you know what I mean, the Most High being within. This is really the essence of what Yeshua represents, what it stands for, the whole philosophy when you strip back that Christianity was supposed to bring forward. Now, with any institution, corruption can come, and there has been tremendous corruption within Christianity. There can be no doubt, and to deny that or to doubt that is to be disingenuous. So, that being said, I want to get into again some of these speeches so that we can set the framework. How do we view the Bible? Let us hear what His Majesty has to say.
All right. So, this is one of the most popular quotes on His Majesty and the Bible. I was looking for the source. I haven't been able to find the source, so I just did a quick look before the episode. If the item know the source, put it down in the comments of where we can find the entire speech. I've seen this excerpt for at least 2 decades, so someone put the source for the entire speech down in the comments so that we can source this utterance. But everyone will recognize this who is familiar with this reasoning. But this quote says, "We in Ethiopia have one of the oldest versions of the Bible. But however old the version may be, and within whatever language it may be written, the word remains one and the same. It transcends all boundaries of empire and all conception of race. It is eternal, and one of the most complete proofs of this can be found in the body of the Bible itself. Gamaliel, one learned in the law, warns Israel of their attitude to the apostles and their teaching. Refrain from these men, he says, and let them alone. For if this counsel or this work be of men, it will come to naught. But if it will be of the Almighty, ye cannot overthrow it." And so we see today the Bible with its wonderful message reaching the remotest parts of the earth. No doubt you all remember reading Acts of the Apostle, how Philip baptized the Ethiopian official. He is the first Ethiopian on record to have followed Christ. And from that day, onward, the Word of God continues to grow in the hearts of Ethiopians. And I might say for myself that from early childhood, I was taught to appreciate the Bible, and my love for it increases with the passage of time. All through my troubles, I have found it to be a cause of infinite comfort. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Who can resist such an invitation full of compassion? Because of this personal experience in the goodness of the Bible, I was resolved that all my countrymen should also share in its great blessings, and that by reading the Bible they should find truth for themselves. Therefore, in spite of great opposition, I caused a new translation to be made from our own ancient language into a language which old and young understood and spoke. Today, man sees all his hopes and aspirations crumbling before him. He is perplexed and knows not whither he is drifting. But he must realize that the Bible is his refuge and the rallying point for all humanity. In it, man will find the solution of his present difficulties and guidance for his entire action. And unless he accepts with a clear conscience the Bible and its great message, he cannot hope for salvation. For my part, I glory in the Bible. Selah.
Mighty. No, that is how. So anything outside of that, and this is where I think the order has to come. We have to have a Rastafari man standard. If you are Rastafari and you have trauma around the Bible, you don't deal with it, you don't think it's productive, what I would say is take a vow of silence and talk about the things that you feel are productive, but to be in direct opposition to what we've just read, to me, is contrary. Then you need to change your name from Rastafari. There's nothing wrong with being a black nationalist or an African nationalist, but if you take up Rastafari name, Haile Selassie I name, then you cannot be, because what you're doing is that you're saying that if His Majesty sit down in a room and you're there, you're going to tell him what he's saying is foolishness, and none of the them are going to do that. Sit front of Kadamawi Haile Selassie I the first and do that. And even if you do that, then what does that make you? That can't make you Rastafari. You know what I mean? Now, His Majesty himself has said that don't just stop at the Bible, seek secular knowledge, seek other knowledge. This is not the end all be all, but this is one of the columns on which we are building. This is one of the columns on which Ethiopia was preserved. So let us talk about why, what Christianity has done and how His Majesty view Christianity.
All right, so we're going to read our speech from the World Evangelical Congress in Berlin. This speech was given October 28th, 1966. So this is after the trip to Jamaica. Significant. All right, so let's read this. This is His Majesty's concept of Ethiopia and its relationship to Christianity. So we have to be very clear. We are reading this to set the parameters. So if your reasoning falls outside of these parameters when you're talking about these topics, know that you are outside of the teachings of His Majesty. I hear one say that not everything His Majesty say or do we have to do, but then you're leaving future generations to just make up things themselves. There has to be structure. So I'm reading this because this is what we would call canon, meaning this is the statutes for our chad, our liberty as Rastafari. This is what we hold to be true, because if He's the Almighty, then He have to be righteous and true. He cannot be a liar and be the Almighty, or He cannot be giving people fairy tales and be the Almighty. He has to give us a pathway that is solid, pure, and true. So it is with that iris and I read this. All right, so this is what His Majesty is saying to the World Evangelical Congress in Berlin. As you all know, it is centuries past since our country Ethiopia accepted the gospel of Christ. We learn from the Holy Scriptures that the first Ethiopian who confessed faith in Jesus Christ was baptized only a few months after the death and resurrection of our Lord. From then on, Christianity spread steadily among the Ethiopian people and became the religion of the Ethiopians in the 4th century. It is a matter of pride for us, a special cause for thankfulness to the Almighty Jah, when we recall that the Christian faith was introduced to our people by the imperial court and through the instrumentality of the then reigning monarch. So, two distinctions are made here. The start of Christianity with the baptism of the Ethiopian eunuch, and then the adoption of Christian faith to the entire realm by the imperial court. So, this is, again, when people say Ethiopia, foreigners introduced Christianity to Ethiopians in reference to Frumentius and the other Syrian youths that were captured by the Ethiopian Aksumite army and then who helped to convert the court. Know that Christianity was already in Ethiopia before that time. All right, so we're going to continue. Ethiopian history testifies that our ancestors who rose after the first Christian emperors were men and women who had great zeal and keenness for the faith of Christ, and who did all in their power for its propagation among our people. Many among them, like Emperor Caleb, who lived in the 5th century, and Emperor Lalibela and his immediate successors, who lived in the 12th century, have been canonized. When the countries of the Middle East, Northeast Africa, and Asia Minor, where the gospel was preached by the apostles, were overrun by and succumbed under the power opposed to the Christian faith, the sovereigns and people of Ethiopia, firm in their deep love for the faith of Christ, and supplemented by the nature of their native land, put up great struggles to preserve Ethiopia as an island of Christianity. Deep is our thankfulness to our Almighty for this grace. Numerous are our ancestors who throughout the centuries consecrated and sacrificed their lives on the battlefield that Ethiopia might survive strong in her Christian faith. When, after all these worthy predecessors, we assumed the leadership of our people half a century ago, we became acutely aware of the magnitude of the sacred trust and responsibility vouchsafed to us to work for the glory of the Almighty and the continued and lasting welfare of our people. During the past 50 years, not only did we labor that our people may lead a better life while on earth, but we also did not spare our energy and treasure to develop their spiritual heritage, the value of which no human mind can assess. And this family is why it matters, because not only was His Majesty the head of the church, but he spent considerable time and effort to spread the teachings. And so when someone is speaking against the teaching, they're speaking also against his life work. So this, is an inconsistency that don't make no sense to I. And that is why I'm telling my brethren and sisters who don't deal with the Bible, it's better to just either you're going to burn the European corruption and focus the energy there, or you silent, because when you just wholeheartedly burn everything, then you're also in direct opposition to Kadamawi Haile Selassie I. We have labored that the Holy Scriptures and the books left to us by the Church Fathers be multiplied by means of modern printing techniques and be distributed to all, not only in our modern language, but also in Ge'ez, our ancient language. Our Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which was cut off for centuries from her fellow Christian churches, has joined the World Council of Churches and cooperates in the task of strengthening the faith and bringing about church unity. We have helped and will continue to help the missionaries who are sent from other lands to preach the gospel to those of our people who have not come into the knowledge of the Almighty saving grace, as the unity of the church is of great concern to us, and the Almighty willing, being hopeful that this sacred objective might be achieved in our day and age, we are happy to have convened 2 years ago a meeting of the heads of the Oriental Orthodox churches in our capital city of Addis Ababa to deliberate on ways and means of bringing about harmony and unity in the church. We refer to all these only to indicate that this age above all ages is a period in history when it should be our prime duty to preach the gospel of grace to all our fellow men and women. The love shown in Christ by our Almighty to mankind should constrain all of us who are followers and disciples of Christ to do all in our power to see to it that the message of salvation is carried to those of our fellows for whom Christ our Savior was sacrificed, but who have not had the benefit of hearing the good news. Since nobody can interfere in the realm of the Almighty, we should tolerate and live side by side with those of other faiths. However, if the threat is posed, we shall not fail to resist with courage any such incursions. We wish to recall here that the spirit of tolerance shown by our Lord Jesus Christus when he gave forgiveness to all, including those that crucified him. In these modern days, and I'm going to seal with this section here. In these modern days, here are the multitude of things published in print. In these modern days, there are a multitude of things published in print and broadcast by radio, which captivate the human mind and spirit. Many new ideas are disseminated by the learned. Many wonderful appliances are produced to make life more and more comfortable. The rich powers have passed on from exploring and exploiting the earth and are vying with each other to explore and conquer the moon and the planets. Knowledge is increasing in a bewilderingly manner. All this is good, wonderful, and praiseworthy. But what will be the end of it all? It is our firm belief that only what the Almighty wills will be done. We should be careful that our results thus achieved by mankind should not meet the fate of the Tower of Babel, the handiwork of those people of old, which came to pieces in their hands. The Apostle Paul says, the wisdom of this world is foolishness with the Almighty, and that the Almighty knoweth the thoughts of the wise, that they are vain. The reason for this is because, generally speaking, man makes himself and his wisdom the beginning and end of his aim in life. We are convinced that the end of this is destruction and death. Our Almighty, Jesus Christus, says, what has a man profited if he shall gain the whole world and lose his own soul? Why did the effort of those who tried to build the Tower of Babel come to nothing? Was it not because they tried to live apart from their Creator, and because, vaunting themselves in their wisdom, they tried to build a tower whose top was to reach unto heaven and thus make a name for themselves? It is our conviction that all activities of the children of men which are not guided by the irit and counsel of the Almighty will bear no lasting fruit. They will not be acceptable in the sight of the Almighty, and will therefore come to naught as the Tower of Babel came to naught. It is for this reason that the Church of Christ and especially Christian leaders, have such an enormous responsibility. However wise or however mighty a person may be, he is like a ship without a rudder if he is without the Almighty. A rudderless ship is at the mercy of the waves and the wind, drifts where they take it, and if there arises a whirlwind, it is smashed against the rocks and become as if it had never existed. It is our firm belief that a soul without Christ is bound to meet with no better fate. And then he ends saying, therefore, O Christians, let us arise and with spiritual zeal and earnestness would characterize the apostle and early Christians. Let us labor to lead our brothers and sisters to our Savior, Jesus Christus, who only can give life in the fullest sense. Now, how do we look at this as Rastafari? I say that Christ consciousness, Jesus Christus, what that represent for I is crucial to manifesting one's internal divinity. And as Jesus Christus, who was an Orthodox Jew, brought I to a higher overstanding, and by his followers he was called Christians because of the elevation that he provided to them. In the same light, His Majesty, who was an Orthodox Christian, coming in the orthodoxy of Jesus Christus, has risen I as Rastafari into a new heights, and we are then called by his name of Rastafari. So to I is no contradiction to accept Yeshua in his fullness and still overstand that His Majesty is demonstrating the fullness of Yeshua within his chad and brings us to a higher overstanding of even Yeshua, because Yeshua never really showed us how the world can interact and work together as one from a governmental, kingly perspective, which His Majesty has done. So that is how Iman would see it, but you can see from the word sound there to be anti Christianity, Ethiopian Christianity, anti Jesus Christus, Yeshua, Ben Yosef, is to be anti, the core teaching of His Majesty is not a periphery or by the way teaching, is a core. So that is why I am imploring I family as the Fireborn family. Either you're going just silent on that topic there, or you focus that energy on the corruption that came when Rome adopted it, Vatican, all of those things. But the fire has to be refined so that we can progress within this unity, and so that we don't confuse, particularly our African brethren and sisters coming forward, healing the Majesty, but then we are attacking his teaching. It won't stand, and as His Majesty say, when a whirlwind comes, it will be smashed and be like it never existed, because His Majesty alone will stand. So all of the contrary teaching and this and that about His Majesty, it's going to fade away. That is Iman sound. Give thanks.
Mighty. So you can see right there, so how we need to look at Christianity. Now there's a speech that circulates every few years that talks about the difference between spirituality and religion. Unfortunately, we have searched this speech and found out that it's not attributed to His Majesty. You know what I mean? It's a powerful sound, but it does block a sound about religion. And then now when we look at His Majesty has a sound about religion. And as a young Ras, I was perplexed because I used to burn out religion. But then as you mature and you get older, you realize the purpose of religion, because when people are left to their own devices, it's chaos. And religion provides a framework and an institutional framework to keep people and to direct their energies, in productive ways. Now again, there's corruption that can come in, but the church role is essential. It was a church that was mediating the disputes between the kingdoms in Ethiopia that allowed the Battle of Adawa to take place and to allow several instances of bloodshed to be avoided because of church mediation. So these institutions and the fact that these ones submit to the authority of these institutions, the leaders of the kingdoms in Ethiopia, it have value. And it's demonstrated again in the actual victory at Adwa, in the victory, over fascism. It is a church that, during the Italian invasion was a secret conduit that was passing the messaging and making sure that the rebels and everybody know what going on. The church played a central role in the resistance, even though some of it was co-opted. You know what I mean? So, listen to what His Majesty says about religion.
All right, so we're going to read from an exchange between His Majesty and a reporter from Voice of Ethiopia, 1948. This speech is in the selected speeches of His Majesty. The question is, there are people everywhere who hold that civilization has done more harm than good to humanity. These people argue that even though the so-called modern progress has brought some physical comfort, it has done incalculable harm to and greatly weakened the spiritual values regarded so highly in former times. What they call spiritual values are those things which are usually associated with religion. In other words, the great progress made in the field of science has contributed to the weakening of the influence of religion and has deprived man of that inner calm he so much needs for his spiritual well-being. What is your Majesty's opinion on this matter? So you see specifically they're asking about religion and whether modern progress is detrimental to religion and the spiritual progress that it entails. His Majesty says, one cannot deny that in former times man's life has been one of toil and hardship. It is correct to say, therefore, that modern civilization and the progress of science have greatly improved man's life and have brought comfort and ease in their trail. But civilization can serve man both for good as well as evil purposes. Experience shows that it has invariably brought great dividends to those who use it for good purposes, while it has always brought incalculable harm and damnation to those who use it for evil purposes. To make our wills obedient to good influences and avoid evil, therefore, is to show the greatest wisdom. In order to follow this aim, one must be guided by religion. Progress without religion is just like a life surrounded by unknown perils and can be compared to a body without a soul. All human inventions, from the most primitive tool to the modern atom, can help man greatly in his peaceful endeavors. But if they are put to evil purposes, they have the capacity to wipe out the human race from the surface of the earth. It is only when a human mind is guided by religion and morality that man can acquire the necessary vision to put all his ingenious inventions and contrivances to really useful, beneficial purposes. The progress of science can be said to be harmful to religion only insofar as it is used for evil aims, and not because it claims a priority over religion in its revelation to man. It is important that spiritual advancement must keep pace with material advancement. When this comes to be realized, man's journey toward higher and more lasting values will show more marked progress, while the evil in him recedes to the background. Knowing that material and spiritual progress are essential to man, we must ceaselessly work for the equal attainment of both. Only then shall we be able to acquire that absolute inner calm so necessary to our well-being. It is only when people strike an even balance between scientific progress and spiritual and moral advancement that it can be said to possess a wholly perfect and complete personality, not a lopsided one. The type of progress we have chalked out for Ethiopia is based on these fundamental principles. April 5th, 1948. And remember the coronation oath to uphold the Orthodox Church. And what I've realized and what I've come to realize, because I was a man with born religion too, let's be honest. However, what I realize is the majority of people need guidance, and without institutions and structures, you get chaos. And that is what we see in the West, where religion has lost its power and people don't go to church. They're wild, you know what I mean? Not to say that church is perfect, because spiritual development is still required. Church is like the scaffolding that allows for the erecting of a spiritual person. It gives you those parameters to keep your mind focused to develop spiritually. But with that, of course, it's easy to corrupt, and there are downfalls. So it's not a perfect system, but the alternative, which is a man just give his opinion, leads to chaos, because everybody have an opinion, and then there's no unity, there's no forward movement, because two bulls can't rule in a pen. So this is why religion is so important. However, with Rastafari, what I would say is that our duty is to build upon the foundations that have been bequeathed to I and I by the church, which is an independent Ethiopia, foundation of independent Africa there. And as we evolve, the new name Rastafari, which has elevated us, the requirement of creating institutions to preserve teachings now, because remember that the Orthodox Church also fight His Majesty, so the teachings of His Majesty also go outside of the accepted orthodoxy of the conservative elements of the church. So His Majesty has brought us again to a higher overstand, which is why we call by His name. We accept modern technology and certain vibration that was rejected by the church, the early church. Public education can give so many examples. So His Majesty teaching, while built on the foundation of the church, exceeds the church. So that is, again, when we're looking at religion, it's an important thing, although it doesn't define what I and I have become in this time. Give thanks. Mighty. And again, some of these are uncomfortable truths, but we need to, again, set the parameters of the reasoning. And as I say, if this is not something that resonates, or, you carry a certain level of trauma or disdain for the biblical story, the Hebrew story, I would recommend just don't reason about it, and to do your research and bring up your philosophy, but to attack something that His Majesty has spent, as we heard in the speech, His Majesty's put time and effort to spread the teachings of the Bible. So you're saying that His Majesty is engaged in foolishness or wickedness or whatever you characterize the Bible. This creates cognitive dissonance, and again, maybe you watch this and you listen to His Majesty's speech and say, there's no way on earth I am going to defend that. As I said, there's nothing wrong with calling yourself a African nationalist, Pan-African nationalist. We can still unify because we can agree to disagree. But this is to the Rastafari people. If you are Rastafari, you should not be going against the teachings of His Majesty. You can disagree internally, and you work that out internally. But if we're unified and we're moving forward to the building of Zion, we can't be confusing people with all type of different talk. And then when the people them start search His Majesty, them to say, it don't match. This is very crucial. So how the item cited, let I know. We are going to get deeper. Blessings. So let us talk about the Lion Pride family. We hit 15,000. In the Lion Pride, we are over 15,300 plus
at the making of this video. Will probably be about 15,500 at the time that this airs. We are moving at lightning speed. We are the fastest growing Rastafari platform on the internet. I just spoke to a brethren in the UK, and I told the brethren, please spread out the sound amongst the ones them. Him say, brethren, all the I and I brethren tap into the Lion Voice network, and the I is well respected in terms of the works, you know what I mean? And name off a couple episodes you watch, which was one of the greatest compliments for I. So big up International Lion Pride. And if this is your first time watching, you're asking, how do I become a part of the Lion Pride? Lion Pride, no. If you subscribe, you are part of the Lion Pride. So we are 15,000, like I said, 300 plus and rising. We're doing about 1,000 new subscribers every strong. So again, if this is your first time, welcome to the Lion Voice. And we have an economic engine, which is the Lion Pride on Patreon. Right now we have 25, I believe, ones in the Lion Pride on Patreon, the last Patreon member. And this happens, you know, in the business world. It's called churn. In the subscription, people come in, people come off. Life is happening to many people, economic circumstances. We understand that, and we have an attitude of gratitude. We're grateful for everyone who contributes even $1 to the platform, because it means a lot to I and I. So we big up everyone. But we're trying to hit 100 people by January 1st. It's looking sticky. We haven't had anyone join. We did have to try hit 11 per strong. We're far off of that, but you don't know black people. We like wait to the last moment. So I'm hoping that is the fullness and we can hit the 100. So if you're part of my core audience, and to those who I'm speaking to know who I'm talking to, because if you are one of those family that value this content, that watch the content, that try keep up. I know most people can't watch everything because the rate of content that we put out is a lot. But if you're one of those brethren or sisters that tap into the content and you find value, we're requesting ones to contribute through the Patreon, $5-10 a month, what you would put into a cup of coffee or 2 cups of coffee. So for the price of a cup of coffee, you can support Rastafari independent non-aligned media. And remember, we stand together, we fall together as a people. So as Rastafari, if we don't have the world-class, first-class media operation, then who do we blame? You know, do we want the world to take us seriously? These are the questions we have to ask. And so far, 25 ones have joined I and said, brethren, I like what the I is saying, and I think that we have that value. And they are standing with I, not just by talk. And we have 3 brethren in the Ubuntu Lion Pride who have said, brethren, we see the vision and we are doing something. We are in Armageddon, so there's no more practice or theoretical. Everybody will be who they are going to be. And right now I'm sounding the trumpet for the Rastafari family globally, who are serious, who give their life to this liberty to support this platform, so that we can move this liberty forward. There is a stagnation within the works, and the world has not seen the true power, and the world needs to see the true power of Kadamari Haile Selassie I, the only one who can save us from this nuclear holocaust that they are trying to bring down on creation. It's Kadamari Haile Selassie I. The youths them around the world need to know the teachings, need to know we've been here before, that His Majesty won. This needs to be shared. You know, we need the soldiers who are being armed to fight these senseless wars to know the teaching, so that they refuse, they desert, they put down their weapons of war, they beat their weapons into plowshares and said, no, I will not fight for you as elders, because that is the elders who are funding and financing, but it's the youths them that are fighting the wars. We as Rastafari can be a force for the good to transform this planet, you know what I mean? But we have to get the thing up. So as you can see with this platform, over 800 pieces of content to show that it's not just a talk. We have Rastafari from the grassroots, Rastafari doctors. We have the most Rastafari woman voices of any platform on the planet. We have all kind of different testimonies right here. We're going to be doing Rastafari and STEM in the new year. That means mathematics, engineers, you know, technicians, technical people who are Rastafari. We're bringing them to the platform. We have so much in line, family. So just as I said, I don't want to come January morning and have to give a reasoning about how we feel and why we feel. We need 75 ones. It's a lot, but we can do it because we believe in I and I self. So it's simple, family. Support the Lion Voice Network so that the Lion Voice Network can support the global family. And if anybody asks why should I support the Lion Voice Network? This is what I want the eye to tell them. That the time has come for the lions to tell our own story. And this is the Lion Voice.
The second beast was given the power to give breath unto the image of the first beast so that the image could speak and cause all who refused to worship the image to be killed. It also forced the people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive the mark on their right hands and in their forehead. Gone down in the new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell, that's new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them video game, that's new matrix. It's a new world order, them start bleaching. Diverse doctrine, them start preaching. Angels for the stars they reaching. They're falling, never hear the lion calling. New world order, them fight against the poor. Machine and robot that sweep them floor. Machine and robot that run them stores. So them create disease ones without any cure. The new world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them prison cell, that's new slave ship. New world order, new world order. Happy work harder, happy pray harder. Babylon them coming with them microchip, and them video game, that's new matrix. It's a new world order. Them pan cell phone. Families don't even talk in their home. Village farmers get murdered by drones. Village mistress get murdered by stones. New world, so you better call Tyrone. Tell him prepare, use the whole earth a war zone. New world, Satan lost for the throne, so we must exit us and leave him alone.